I'll start off with a little quote from one of the people that sort of invented, like he's known as the father of ETFs. His name is John C. Bogle, right? He said, rather than trying to find a needle in a haystack, why don't you just buy the whole haystack? So that's the thinking behind an ETF, right? An ETF is basically like an investment fund. It actually means equity traded funds, right? So it's an investment fund, but what it does is, instead of you buying just shares in one company, right? So you have to do research, do a lot of analysis, check out like 20 different companies to find out one company that is very good, that has healthy financials and all that you're sure if you put your money there, the share price will grow over time. Instead of doing all that work just to find one company, why don't you just either invest in the sector that that company is in, or, as I like to recommend, just buy the entire market. It seems crazy, but if you can buy the entire market, then no matter what happens, because what happens in the market is some companies go up, some companies go down in terms of value, but at the end of the day, the market itself consistently goes up. No matter what happens, economic recession, the market always goes up, right? So you can bet on the market, while it may be difficult to bet on one company. So that's the thinking behind an ETF, right? Now, in practical terms, how that works is the same way you have shares. Like if you want to invest in a company, you buy units of shares, right? Let's say you want to invest in BAT now. You have maybe you buy 100 units of BAT, so you have shares in BAT. Now, with ETFs, it's almost the same thing. It's just that for each unit of an ETF, you've invested in all the companies that make up that ETF. So the ETFs I like to recommend, Vanguard or World, for instance, or let's say S&P 500. That's the most popular one, S&P 500. S&P 500 ETF is basically a fund that invests in the top 500 companies in the US, right? The top 500 in terms of their capital, right? So each unit of that fund is split across those 500 companies, but you can buy a unit of it at an affordable price. So you can buy $10 worth of that Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, but that $10 worth your $10 is now split proportionally across those top 500 companies. So if one of the companies crashes, so long as the entire 500 companies do not crash, your investment will still be fine, right? So that's the beauty of ETFs. The only thing, the only downside that an ETF has is if for some reason, so let's use Tesla as an example. Tesla's value has gone up astronomically in the last 10 years. And Tesla is one of those top 500 companies. So if someone had invested in Tesla 10 years ago, they would have made a significant amount of money because of the value of their share would have gone up. But if you invested just in S&P 500, your value would have gone up, but not as much as Tesla. That's the only downside. So the growth in your investment, when you invest in an ETF, it's stable, it grows, but at a reasonable pace. It doesn't grow in astronomical leaps. So you won't get some huge spikes. But then the inverse is also true. When the economy crashes, let me think of a company that has crashed in the last 10 years. Maybe WeWork or some other company that crashed in the last 10 years. Your shares too will not crash astronomically because you are getting an average, right? Even when there's a recession, maybe it's not even just one company that crashes. Like last year when the entire market was crashing and companies were crashing, the decline in the S&P 500 ETF wasn't as sharp as some of the individual companies that made up that ETF, right? So that's the plus side. So it's a safe way to invest, especially if you are not someone that likes to do analysis and paralysis on what's the current ratio, what's the working capital, how much assets do they have, which are all the things that someone like me likes to check. But even me, that I enjoy doing that analysis and still pick one or two companies individually to invest in, I still have a lot of my money in ETFs because I know that's the one that come rain, come sunshine, to be fine. So it's a safe way to invest.
You keep using the word I do not think it means what you think it means.
For people that are not very savvy about stock markets and things like that. And the other bit of it that I would add is maybe which ETFs I typically recommend. So for newbies, the main one I would recommend